On this episode of the I2I Forum podcast, we're speaking with Sue Ingram. Sue is a leadership and executive coach. She'll be delivering insights from a first-hand experience on how you can make the small changes that have a big impact on the way you lead and the way your organization perceives you. Sue will be sharing her insights on the practical, pragmatic things that you can do now to allow yourself to be more effective as a leader. We'll also be talking about a pet topic of mine, meeting management, and how effective meetings have a massive impact on everything you do. All this and more on this episode of the I2I Forum podcast. Hi, Sue.
Hi, hello. Lovely to see you again.
Love to see you again. And for those who don't know about you, if you just care to share a little bit about yourself, please.
Okay. I am an executive coach and trainer. I was one of the first coaches in the UK 25 years ago. And I support leaders in communication skills and being the leaders that they want to be. That's what my work is about.
It's interesting because I had a podcast recently with another man who's a values coach. And initially he started off with like Toastmasters and such like that and training leaders. But then he found out as he was, working with them, that a lot of them have an idea of what a leader is. And it wasn't always the definition that they were, but it's some lofty ideal of it's like this perfect person that makes no mistakes, that is the guru of everything. I mean, you're laughing.
No, a leader is someone that people choose to follow, and you can be a leader by your position, but what you'll get are little footshot soldiers, little children who just do what you tell them to do, and that's fine. And there are places where that is appropriate, but if you fall under a bus, the whole business goes. It's a really dangerous thing to do, because if you're not there on holiday, everything stops. Nothing happens. No decisions are made. Nothing. So also this idea that leaders are massively charismatic, they're the peacock feathers, they're this, they're that, and they've got all the answers, is a complete fallacy. There was a fantastic book written by Jim Collins called Good to Great, which was what he was analysing. He was a professor from the States. He was analysing what turned good companies into great companies. And he specifically did not want a leadership story. He said, because leaders come and go, I want to know what's intrinsic within the company that makes them great. Great question to ask. And he sent his researchers out, and they kept coming back saying, but these leaders are different. And he said, I don't want a leadership story. And they kept insisting, these leaders are different. So he went out to find out what made these leaders great. And they had two things. They had fierce professional will. In other words, they absolutely wanted the company to succeed. If that meant closing branches, if that meant sacking family members, if that meant, they would do it. They were quite fearsome about the company surviving, and they took the tough decisions that the company needed. The second was that they exhibited a high degree of personal humility. Yeah. When a mistake was made, they said, I made the mistake. When good results came in, they said, look at the team of people around me. Aren't they brilliant? Look what they created. And the sad thing is that when we see leaders, we see the peacocks. We don't see the leaders with quiet humility. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a cough. And that's sad, because in our society, we think that leadership is the peacock, the quick, the witty, the intelligent peacock. And there is a place for those as leaders, obviously, but there's plenty of room for the person who exhibits a high degree of personal humility. Jim Collins called it level 5 leadership. You can look it up, and there's articles written on it and stuff like that. And Steven Spielberg is a level 5 leader. Steven Spielberg, he's a showman because he creates the most glorious stories, but he's not a showman of himself. He's wearing working clothes, comfortable, he's just Steven Spielberg. Yet his team, he has the same team of people that show up for every movie. Every movie. They show up for every movie. And actors say, hey, you've got to be on your game when you're working on a Steven Spielberg movie because they're fast. Because this team has come together. They know each other. They've got a shorthand. They know what, they've done all the contracting. They know each other really well. And they worked fast. And you as an actor have got to kind of like, whoa, get up to speed on this if you want to become a member of the team for in creating the movie. Which is why Steven Spielberg makes so many movies, because he's built his team and he loves them, and they obviously and clearly love him. And together they make such a high quality product. It's exciting.
With that said, is one of the key challenges for many leaders is building a team. So right now in the marketplace, there's a lot of organizations who are out recruiting. And I read some articles recently where people were talking about how going through all these interviews and they're interviewing these people and then there's turnover. And one organization I worked with, they went through 3 different data leads in the space of like 4 months. And they were saying, these people out here, they're rubbish. And I was like, well, to be honest, the only common factor over these last 3 months are the people in this room. It couldn't just be the person.
Selection. And the people who've made the selection.
And they're the ones who made the selection, by the way.
Yeah, for whatever reason.
So how do you advise or speak to many leaders who are trying to pick and make a good team to get a Steven Spielberg kind of situation?
Okay. Well, one, you've got to be someone worthy of following. You've got to be a person of your word. You've got to be trustworthy. You've got to be real. You've got to admit to the mistakes that you make, because you will make them, because as you alluded to earlier, just because you're a leader doesn't mean to say you don't make mistakes. You must, you want your team to say, I made a mistake, so you can do a correct on it. So you must role model that yourself. And when you make a mistake, you must go, team, I'm sorry, I made a mistake here. We actually need to do this. So there's a whole piece about how you show up, and you must show up in the way in which you want your team to show up. And then in recruitment, there's a big problem that we often recruit in like. So we recruit people like ourselves, which isn't always a great thing for the team, because there's 4 broad personality types. So we tend to, obviously, clearly, because we're human beings, I've done it myself, everyone's susceptible to this. We recruit people that we click with who happen to be our personality type. And so we get a lot of people, so we build a monoculture, and that's not healthy, particularly if our client base is a rich, diverse group of people. Then having a monoculture is a danger, because you're all thinking in one way, you're all solving the problems from one perspective, when in actual fact there's a vast richness there. It also means that you can, if you're a business owner, you tend to recruit people who have aspired to be a business owner themselves.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's kind of fun, and I get it and I enjoy it. But if you have a whole load of those people in the team, actually you want a pretty steady person to come in at 9, leave at 5, do the admin tasks, have some fun, be a good team player, have a giggle, come for pizza night. You don't want them to set the world on fire. You just want them to come and be reliable and do a good job and be accurate with their work and have fun and be a good team member.
Yeah, because I remember reading once, there was a phrase like 9s hire 10s and 7s hire 5s. Because in a lot of organizations, a lot of leaders now, and I guess maybe the job market could have something to do with that, they're not fully secure and tend to shy away from hiring people who have a shining talent.
Who could be a competitor. You've got to remember, this is one of the problems, particularly if you have got a business and you're growing. When the business is small, you understand every facet of the business, and you can, if necessary, step in and fulfill that post for a period of time, or that duty for a period of time, and do it. As you get bigger and more complex, you can't. You can't do IT. You can't do marketing. You hire experts to come and do these tasks for you. And your job as the recruiter, as the conductor of the orchestra, I often say that leaders and entrepreneurs you're the conductor of the orchestra. You can't play the oboe, but you help the oboe play brilliantly and give them an indication of when they're supposed to come in. Right, you come in at this point on this beat, yeah? But you can't play the oboe. You have an understanding of music, but so you hire someone who is an expert in their field. Now, your job is to give them the right direction, build the culture around for them to operate and thrive in, give them boundaries to work within, what is acceptable in terms of behavior and attitude, and give them the targets and the KPIs that you want them to hit. And all those things, and you've got to do it in an inspirational way. So these people positively leap out of bed in the morning and go, do you know what, I'm going to work, I'm going to have a great day. They come in, they have a great day, and they give the very best of themselves to your business. That's your job as a leader. It's not to be IT, it's not to be marketing, it's to hire the experts that know more than you do and are better than you. And there's a huge amount of trust in it.
Yes.
Yeah. Huge amount of trust.
It's interesting because I was also, from the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, one of the things he talks about in there is when you hire somebody that has that expertise, the other thing you want to get from them is an education. So you're actually being educated. So you don't have to be an expert in their field, but they should also be the kind of people that, to a degree, educate you on why this is important.
And I'm happy to educate you. I mean, if you hire an IT guy and something's going wrong, one of the strongest questions as a leader to ask is, what's the question I should be asking you at this moment in time? And they go, you should be asking me how long this project's going to take. Oh, that's interesting. How long is this project going to take? Right. Okay. We have got some options here. There's the, because sometimes and there is something wonderful and freeing. I remember reading an article years ago about a guy who was a CEO and he went into babysit a business for 6 months because of some sort of crisis going on. So he came in as CEO and he knew nothing about I think they were a manufacturing company. He knew nothing about manufacturing. He knew nothing about the product they were doing. He knew nothing. He said, that was one of the best leadership experiences of my life because I knew nothing and all I could do was ask stupid questions. And in a way, he was freed because people knew he knew nothing. It was obvious, obviously. That shouldn't cover that one up. So he just went and asked the stupid question. Why are we doing it that way around? And he got answers. And it's actually, the shop floor often has the answer.
Yeah.
The senior management team in their office in the back, they don't have the answer. The guy that's on the floor doing the job or the girl that's on the floor doing the job, they have the answer. They know what's going on.
I think there's also a balance because I think in that there's an assumption about the level of communication between leadership and the frontline staff, because situations where I've gone in, the divide is not only reinforced by class and culture and hierarchy, but also by the lack of two-way communication between the shop floor and leadership. And in fact, one of the things that I've been really mulling over the last few days is around communication, the words. Because for me, as a project delivery and change leader, what I've looked at is my litmus test, my check of business change and culture readiness is nothing about these ADKAR, ProSci, Kotter's, Adiz's tests or personality. And it's actually part of the reason why, even in this role now, I think that the change management profession is taking a huge hit on this assumption around remote working, because it's the words people are using and how they're using them that really reflect the culture and their openness. So as an example, I've seen senior leaders come and say, I'd like a status report on Friday. And the PMO goes, yes, but never ask the questions. What do you want to see in this report? I'm planning on giving you, inquiring.
What do you use this report for?
Absolutely. So, I mean, the way we met through, become a key person of influence, one of the things you're talking about was like the crucial conversations or even just the cost of not having these conversations, which is just in some cases What do
Huge.
you mean by that? What is your request? Or this is what I believe you're requesting. Is that correct? So yeah, I'd want you to expand some more on the whole thing around these conversations and how we build that trust to have them.
Well, words are very interesting because the whole thing about communication is that we code a message and then we send it by a medium. So we code up a message with the words we choose, and then we choose the medium, email, face-to-face, telephone, and we send it out. The receiver then decodes the message, and they make their assumptions in that decoding, which is why emails can only be used for facts, because emails is one of the poorest methods of communication you can come across. If there's anything emotive, anything a little bit difficult to hear or say, it must be made at least by telephone, if not face-to-face, because there are so many cues that you get from body language and pace and tone of voice. Whereas I don't know about you, but I'm in a bad mood. I'm in a bad mood because something's happened. The washing machine's broken down, and I'm like, oh, and the fridge broke down last month. So I'm now in a really bad mood because I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to go. And I get an email and I read it in that bad mood. Well, immediately, what that email's saying to me is rubbish. It's rubbish. It's rubbish. It's rubbish. I disagree with everything they're saying. This is awful. Because I have nothing else but the written word to decode. And therefore, I just lay on it my emotion of that moment. And if I'm in a bad mood, you're going to be pretty upset by the reply that I send you, because it's going to be, how dare you say that to me? Da, 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 da. Yeah. And you're going, but I didn't mean this. I just asked a question.
Yeah.
Where did this come from? You know? Well, it came from the fact the washing machine busted. But so we've got to be very, very careful of what we say. And we've got to be aware of how our body language and our tone of voice can aid a conversation or decrease a conversation, or straight away. And the funny thing is, we get lots of feedback on our words, because when we wrote at school, our words were critiqued, we didn't at school get any feedback on our tone of voice, how we use our tone of voice, and the body language we use. So straight away, if you want to be a leader, you want to have the body language that is confident, steady, strong, yet approachable, yet curious, yet, hey, you can come and tell me anything, but if you want me to change my mind, you've got to put forward a good case. I will change my mind, but I want a good business case as to why I should change my mind on this, action that we should be taking. So you walk with that stance. You walk upright, you walk strong, you walk with that stance. And there is a lovely tone of voice called neutral, charge neutral, which is a neutral tone of voice. It has no drama to it. It has no up or down. It's just a very factual and statement neutral tone of voice. And with that tone of voice, you can say almost anything, and it lands. So this is why people say you can't tell someone they're unhappy in their job role. I said, you most certainly can. You most certainly can. Well, it's a person. I said, look, if you feel that they're unhappy in their job role, it behoves you as the leader and manager to draw their attention to that. Now, the way you do it is, hopefully you've built some rapport with the person, you've built some trust. They know you to be someone who wants them to be at their best, and they know you to be someone who will hear what they have to say with respect and all those good things. And then you simply sit down and you say, do you know, over the last couple of months, I've been gaining the perception that you're not necessarily happy in this job role. And that saddens me, because I believe that we should all be fundamentally enjoying our work. And the reason I've gained this perception is, and then you talk about the evidence that you've seen, this and that and that and that. I'll be very interested on your views on it, your thoughts on it. Now, the first thing they're going to go is, no, I'm fine, because that's what everybody does. Everybody, when faced with difficult news, will go, no, I'm fine. And you go, okay. It's just that, sometimes these things can creep up on us. I would love for you just to go away and think about that a little bit, and maybe we can pick up this conversation in next week. Then they go away and think about it, then they come back and they say, actually, thinking on it, things have changed. The job's changed, or I've changed, or whatever.
Yeah.
Things have changed, and what I used to enjoy, I don't enjoy it. And you go, oh, okay, no, this is good to know. So what changes can we make? And then if there aren't any changes that the business can make, a few conversations down the road, the realization may be, do you know what? I think you've outgrown this job role, and I think for your benefit and my benefit, the business's benefit, you need to move on. You need to find something that ignites you again.
See, this is interesting because there's so many dynamics going on in a conversation like that. And again, referring back to when I first met you, and the reason why we engaged with you is because the courage that you were teaching and coaching leaders at that time was around a specific area of how to let somebody go, how to, let them go out of the business. And it was such a bold thing when I heard it, like, my gosh, that takes a lot.
Not really.
And the thing is, it can be easy it's as tough as it is on the person giving it. It's that whole thing around what you mentioned before about the empathy as a leader on how it's going to be received to create that atmosphere and environment of dignity.
Yes.
In the situation.
There's no fault and no blame. Job roles change. People change. What you thought or what did really excite you 5 years ago doesn't now. Let's name it for what it is, and let's with some grace and dignity, as you say, go and find another, and I can help you as your boss. I'm happy. What are you looking for? What's going to be your next role? Right. I'll go around and talk to my contacts and say, hey, is anyone looking for this?
Doesn't
yeah.
Doesn't that also assume that the boss is also a good guy or girl? Because, I've been in situations where that's not the intent of the boss. Sometimes this
is where many bosses get it wrong, and they don't realize that when the individuals in the team win, the business wins. What you're looking for when you're creating a culture, and as a leader and a manager, you're creating the self-managed team. The team that's got a clear direction, got a clear code of conduct, behavior, attitude, values, whatever you want to call it, about how they behave and treat one another. It's got a clear remit, is really excited to meet the purpose and the mission of the business and the team. Turns up voluntarily gives additional effort. You don't have to they come up with ideas of, hey, you know what? I was sitting on the bus and I was thinking, that's a long-winded way to do that. We could cut at least half a day off that by just doing this. And you're going, how come I didn't think of that? Yeah. That's brilliant. Well, you won't, because you're removed from the task and they're in the midst of the task. And you're looking, in HR terms, you're looking for this nirvana, but it is possible. Something called discretionary effort, where people are voluntarily putting in more. It's only half an hour every day. But instead of leaving at 5 on the dot, they're hanging around, they're tidying up the desk, they're sending in 1 or 2 last emails, they're having a chat with a colleague, and they're leaving at 5:30. That's discretionary effort. And you can see that the desk is clear and they've got a clear idea about okay, tomorrow I'm going to come and do this and that. And you go, wow, this is brilliant. That's what I want. Other leaders think that you have to drive people. You have to, it's the old argument of carrot and stick always, isn't it? And the answer is a bit of both. The answer actually is a bit of both. But, they're all idiots and you have to tell them what to do and you have to make them do it, is the other extreme. It's the other extreme. And of course you will meet idiots.
Yeah.
We meet idiots in every walk of life. Bless them. But it's about creating the environment that people come in and just have some fun. When they have fun and are happy, the research proves it again and again and again. Productivity goes up. Productivity goes up when people are happy. And so I see that success and fun go together. And so what if my job is nothing more complicated than making sure that everyone is happy, and successful in their job role. Now, this isn't fluffy stuff. This isn't, give them a sticky donut on Friday. This is, I have to say no. Oh, no, we're not doing that. We're doing that. Or no, that's not how we behave in our team. I have to create boundaries and safety and clarity. So I have to be very firm with my language. I have to know what it is, and I have to be firm with my language. And then I create the environment for them to be massively creative and excited and to do great work.
I think that's an interesting point to wrap up on, because it's about leaders creating that environment by leading by example, by showing empathy, but understanding it's important to provide the direction, the words, the guidelines that allow them freedom. For myself, as a parent of a 15-year-old, that's something I've learned, because to make and for him to be happy, I could go the route of trying to give him everything he wants. But what I've actually found, especially as a young man, by having very clear, relentless, in some cases, inflexible boundaries,
Absolutely.
it's given him a sense of freedom that he knows how far he can go, and he finds and creates ways within that framework to have fun.
Yes. I mean, if you want a respectful workplace, then the one thing you're going to go absolutely hard on is anything disrespectful or, derogatory or anything like. No, we don't. You will go hard on that. You may even dismiss someone on that. There's a big thing here about what behavior and attitude are you choosing to tolerate. And you were talking about earlier, you asked what's the cost of not having difficult conversations. One, that person will not change. No, why should they change? You've given them no consequence. They have no reason to change. They won't change. You wish that they would, but they won't. Oh, and they're not going to resign. Why should they? They've got a cushy number here, not doing very much, drifting along. So why would they go and look for another job? Nope. Oh, and retirement. Well, retirement age is not obligatory anymore. People can choose when they retire. So you could have them till they're 74. Yeah. So they're not going to go away, and things are not going to change unless you say something. The other much more hidden cost. Well, and so that then becomes a daily irritant for you. Every time you walk into the office and see them, it's going to be a stab. And that's Chinese torture. This stab. And you put up with it and you tolerate it, and it's like, but it drains you of energy. But the biggest thing of all, good members of staff see you tolerating their poor attitude or poor results, and they lose respect for you because they do not see you having a word. And the good people go eventually. The worst case scenario is the good people are covering for the poor performer, which people are happy to do short term, but it goes on and on. Eventually they start building a little bit of resentment. I'm being taken advantage of here. I'm being taken for granted. I'm busting a gut. They're not. How come? This isn't fair. This boss is not having a word with them. I've had a word with the boss about having a word with them, but the word still hasn't happened. I'm off. I'm leaving. And then your good folk leave and you're just left with the poor. You're left with the poor. And when you're left with the poor, your business will go nowhere and you will be exhausted.
And that's a huge cost. I think one of the things, just to wrap it up on a really reflective and positive note on this, is that there is a way for leaders to change. There is help for them. And there's resources like yourself as a coach that can provide that sounding board, to be that mirror, to be that trusted advisor without them feeling through the hierarchy that they're somehow inadequate as a leader. They can build through working with you and through other resources.
Yeah, you can learn. I mean, some people are natural born leaders. Yay for them. The bell curve, the old bell curve. They're at the end there going, natural leader. Aren't they the lucky ones? Most of us sit in the middle with some talents, some natural talents in leadership, and some holes in the way in which we lead, some gaps. And we can learn. And I love teaching leaders how to learn. I mean, I've been working with one guy for 3 weeks and he's changed already. He's going, I've got time to do things. I said, yeah. we're talking time management first of all, and we're going to get into delegation and prioritization and all that kind of thing. And he's wonderful. But I mean, there's one thing you can do, which is just buy my book. I'll just do a shameless plug here for my book.
Farewell.
How to Fast Staff So They Say Thank You. This book is over 10 years old now. Can you believe it? 10 years old.
Wow.
But it's got a load of good stuff in there about languaging and how to give. Because I think as a manager, if you learn how to give the toughest types of conversations, of messages, which is you're not doing as well as you think you're doing. Who wants to hear that? Nobody. Yeah. If you've got confidence that you can tackle that, then you've got confidence to have all the other conversations that you need to have.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Sue. I really appreciate you taking time out to share your thoughts, your experience, and your insights that will inspire people to action. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.